Guys, it's time to be upfront. I don't have a perfect background, always. But you know what we do have? Fearox EU on BOGO. We also have a 25% off code to go along with that. So, Fearox EU, which is our EU-friendly version of our pre-workout, is on sale right now over at www.chaosandpain.com for buy one Fearox EU, get another one absolutely free. All you have to do is add it to your cart. It should zero out. Everything will be right in the world. And while you're there shopping for your pre-workout fix, you can also use the 25% off code to fill your other needs. So, with that being said, in this episode, I am back again with Jamie. This time we go over, well, the title really says it. It's an obesity aside. We go through the obesity, and then we go and then weave our way around MMA and all a bunch of other bits and ends. But hey, as always, it usually ends up somewhere good. So, without further ado, ignore the messy background, or don't. I look forward to your comments. I'm going to clean that up later, and enjoy the show. Well, welcome to the hatecast. Today's been a doozy of a day. Not really, my problems are insignificant. So, what is our discussion today? I think we were going to finally tackle the discussion of obesity.
We were, but before we start that, I found out today that Konstantinovs died.
What?
I hadn't heard that Konstantinovs died. I don't know how long ago. But had you heard that? Do you know who he is?
I don't. Off the top of my head.
He was the world record holder in a deadlift. Yeah, it's Konstantinovs. He was he had a world record deadlift. He was a 308 pounder, I think. And he was like ripped to shreds. He could do 55 pull-ups in a row. He was a fucking maniac. And apparently he's dead now.
What happened?
Well, from what somebody just sent me a message saying that it's under mysterious circumstances and they think he was stabbed while being a bouncer. I'm looking on Wikipedia now because it literally just brought to my attention. Nope, okay. Unspecified causes. So the rumor is he was stabbed to death while being a bouncer.
That would make sense. I mean, that's a quick way to die. So I did want to kind of ask you, speaking of deaths in the fitness industry, there was one that happened that I wanted your opinion on before we start this thing. That happened while you were in the clink.
I'm for it. That's my opinion. I'm for death. I'm pro-death.
Yeah, well, population control. So
yes,
Charles Poliquin.
He died.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. He was I only emailed back and forth with him a couple of times. He was a nice man. What did he die of?
Heart issues. Actually, before I talk out of my ass.
Surprising. He wasn't that old.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he wasn't that old, but he had heart issues to begin with. You know, he was already on a pacemaker. Yeah. But
how the fuck did he pull that off? I mean, was he a juice monkey or anything like that? I don't remember that guy being much of anything to look at, but I guess he was. I guess he he got after it a little bit.
Well, you know, that's what frustrates me always in the fitness industry is they're so quick to blame steroids and the lifestyle because, you know, let's be honest here, the partying and the fitness industry kind of go hand in hand when it comes to certain individuals.
Oh, without question.
And it was a different time. It's like my mother, who's an older lady. She took diet pills with like clenbuterol in it, and that was just sold over the counter. And before that, DMP was actually sold over the counter as a diet pill as well. So
DNP used to be sold as a diet pill?
Oh yeah, you're not familiar with that? Oh hell yeah. When they found out that it actually helped you burn body fat, they were like, "Hey, let's put this in a pill without any studies."
Dude, my entire experience with DNP was hearing about it on the internet like 10 years ago, and I was like, well, that's fucking stupid, and that was it. I never met anybody who did it prior to like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's because it's been banned for a long time. I mean, the only way
it's been banned forever.
The only way to get it beforehand was to go to, like, this is probably letting people know too much, but if they want to fucking try it, let's let Darwinism take over.
What, go lick dynamite? How do you get it?
Well, you go to, places that sell industrial fertilizer, because that's what it's used for.
It's off to a good start.
So, while you're doing that, you can go ahead and make the decision to become obese. Let's jump into it.
Okay.
But actually, I take that back. Let's be a douche and backtrack here. So there was some clarification that we needed on the last episode we did. Some guy says, "Great podcast. So if I got the diet part correct, you recommend 3 weeks of cutting and 4 weeks of bulking versus the ABCDE 2/2 week. Would that be along your recommendations?"
Yeah. I like I said, I haven't finished my research into this, but I don't think you need to diet as long as you need to bulk. And it really boils down to, it's harder to put on muscle than it is to strip off fat.
Correct. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Man, this is kind of appropriate given the episode. We've discussed this before, but stripping off the layer of fat is not that hard. It just takes, conscious decisions about what you put in your mouth most of the time. Also, he goes ahead and adds, there's a theoretical limit of how fast you can mobilize fat, estimated at 30 kcals per pound of available body fat, minus the essential fat of 3%. So he gave some, would that be about right? He gave some equation, but I'm not going to read that. You guys can go back in the other episode and...
I'm curious. He gave an equation. Where did he get this equation?
So a guy at 200 pounds with 13% body fat should be doing a 200 times 0 time, blah, 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 equals 600 calorie deficit, is what he thinks. I'm actually a fan of larger deficits, even if that means a little bit of muscle loss, because holy shit, does it just come back so easily. It's the same people that lose 40 pounds and worry about their strength. It's like, calm down, come off the diet for like a couple weeks, you'll be fine. I think it has to do with the Instagram and generation and always having to be strong. It's like, strength is not linear. There's a drop off.
You know what's fun about the Instagram thing about always being strong? Number one,
they aren't.
They're not. They're not. It's a bunch of fucking pussies making a bunch of excuses online about why they're not strong. And two, like, you don't have to film every fucking thing you do. So you don't always have to be anything.
The hilarity...
Other than not filming. That's what I'd really like to see, is people not filming themselves. Like I think I mentioned in the last podcast, when I was in jail, I don't recall seeing a guy who had been in there, who had been like going into the weight room, because we get weight room 3 times a week. I hadn't seen anybody who was going in there, who was going to the weight room assiduously 3 times a week, who couldn't bench like 250 pounds.
Yeah.
So in 2 months, they were benching 225, 250, no matter who they were. because they were in there going fucking nuts, and then they were doing push-ups whenever they weren't in the gym. Like, everybody was obsessed with benching. You know what they weren't obsessed with? I mean, it wasn't possible, but they weren't obsessed with filming themselves benching it. It was all about, like, bro high fives and fucking, like, screaming and carrying on and acting like maniacs and having a good time while lifting. You don't have to fucking film it.
Could you imagine the one dude going in there, and he goes into the clink, and he basically decides to go ahead and give benching a go or squatting a go or what have you, and he's like, oh shit, I forgot my knee wraps. Well, damn, now I can't do this. Like, no. Dude, what the fuck?
And you know what was crazy? There were guys in there doing the bear. I don't know if you're familiar with the bear.
I am.
So the bear is you clean the weight, front squat it, overhead press it to your back squat it, overhead press it to your front squat it, and then put it back down to the ground. Now, because these guys just made this up, they weren't doing the initial, like, they weren't doing the 2 front squats. They were only doing the back squat.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these guys, with absolutely no training whatsoever, were doing, like, they had gotten up to 135 for reps. And after I showed one of the guys how to do it, he was doing 165. Like, and I just gave him a couple of tips, and he was immediately doing 165. I guarantee you there are people who are listening to this who can't do 5 reps with 165 because of the clean portion of it or because of the press portion of it. And he was strict pressing it, too.
Maybe it's just my limb length, but is cleaning really that difficult when it comes to progression?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, I've always been able to clean a fair amount. Is it really that difficult?
I don't think so, but I mean, I don't have any wrist flexibility whatsoever, so I hold the bar like it's in a neutral position. I mean, my wrists barely bend back, so I can't rack it at all. I just have to use bicep strength to hold it up. And I think the most I've ever cleaned was 335 that way.
Yeah. See, I can do about 315, like, but I just don't have it in my programming. I don't have it in my routine. So
yeah, no, but it boils down to people. Really, cleaning comes down to just having the brute strength in order to get it up, and then once you have the brute strength to move the weight, you should be refining your technique in order to get more weight. But everybody has it backwards, and they're trying to fucking get their technique perfect, and they never actually move on to lifting any weight. See these fucking idiots running around like lifting PVC pipes, and then they scoff at guys like me who can just get in there and muscle it up. And they're like, your form sucks. And it's like, I don't give a fuck what my form is. I didn't even have to bend my legs and I did 335.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
but
also,
it's form Nazis trying to basically they're trying to excuse their weakness by discounting the lifts of people who are stronger than them based on form.
Oh yeah, blame everybody except for yourself. It's fine.
Yep.
So let's go back to his question. There's a theoretical limit of how fast. Do you think that there's a limit to how fast you can burn body fat when it comes to a certain amount per pound? I think that's a little bit like micromanaging for me. I don't necessarily follow that ideal.
I mean, I don't understand why it's necessary to know that information. Like, is it so that you can... I don't understand. Like, why would a person even ask that question? Who gives a shit? Just burn as much fat as you can.
Man, I know these questions bother you, but probably just out of curiosity. Look,
well,
it comes down to having an energy deficit so that your abs come out and say hi. Like, that's the general consensus, right? Like,
well, clearly.
It's not about how many calories you need to have a deficit and getting that number exactly right. Like, nobody even knows their true maintenance because it's forever changing. There's no way to calculate your maintenance down to the exact calorie. Like, even the nutrition panels on foods are in a 10 to 20% margin of error, right? So it's not. It just in my opinion, it isn't worth that micromanagey style of trying to get that number down. I think you should just shoot for a calorie deficit, and if it's working, cool. If it's not, reduce more. I mean, I don't know. I'm simple like that.
Yeah, that falls into the same category of, and I've been asked this question 3 times in the last 4 days. Why, I don't know. But people keep asking me whether they should use ephedrine HCl or ephedrine sulfate. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you even asking me this question? Who gives a shit? Just use one. Like, well, what's the optimal dosage? Whatever you happen to have handy, take one of each of them and call it a day. Who cares? Like, why is everybody in a panic to fucking know what the optimal this and the optimal that is? I've never in my life, like, I have some ephedrine, I have some caffeine, and I have some aspirin. I take one of each, or I take 2 of each.
You know, it's strange, though. Even with that stuff, like, you have this margin of dosage that you can use. Like, you know, this is for entertainment purposes only. Chaos and Pain does not, blah, 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 illicit drug use, all that stuff, right? But, you know, 25 milligrams is the base, it seems to be the base ephedrine dosage, probably because what was in hydroxycut back in the day, right?
Yeah, and
like,
I mean,
what's studied.
Everybody copied the same. Dan Duchesne came up with the dosages. I think it was like 300 milligrams of caffeine and then 25 milligrams of ephedrine and a baby aspirin, whatever the fuck's in that. And
but I'm just not sold on the fact that if you take 12.5 milligrams of ephedrine, it's going to be like 50% or significantly less effective. I'm just not about that life. That seems like a little bit of, I mean, just, you know, they come in 25 milligram pills usually. Just take 25 milligrams and take like a no dose, which is 225 caffeine. Or you know what? If you're ultra crazy, take a Bacchus. You know, great caffeine source.
Yeah, it's a great caffeine store. I liked how calmly you said that.
Hell yeah. It's
a great. You used your smooth jazz voice on that one.
I got smooth jazz voice.
Yeah,
no,
some
that
slow
was my
jams.
daddy voice. Hold on. No.
Oh, Jesus.
Hell yeah. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. But yeah, just take a caffeine source, and you can use it with the aspirin or without the aspirin. I prefer without the aspirin, right? It's like if I'm using it at any given point. And stop trying to micromanage that shit.
Stop trying to micromanage everything. And it all comes down to all of that shit is a smokescreen to cover up the fact that you're not training hard. That's all it is. And I literally will fight anybody who has anything to say to the contrary. It's nothing but a smokescreen.
To answer your question, I think that you should, instead of worrying about the theoretical limit of how fast you can mobilize fat, pick a deficit, stick to it, see if it works. If not, adjust it. That should work. And he had this other comment about muscle is also harder as you get more advanced, gaining muscle, that is. Blah, blah, blah. So, like, okay, he's talking about recomp. And recomp is totally possible. You know, it just takes a longer time than the dramatic changes you see in the traditional cutting and bulking. You're going to stay leaner. That's one of the advantages, right? But, you know, it could potentially stave off fat gain is the main reason why people want to recomp, you know? If
may I interrupt you? May I interrupt you for 1 sec?
Go ahead.
Have you ever keto dieted?
Yes.
You know, in the first couple of days, you're pretty much having to avoid shitting your pants the entire day.
Not for me. I just get the keto flu. I'm one of those people. Yeah.
Well, I'm in the pants shitting phase, and so let's pause, and I'll be right back.
Okay. And we're back. Although Jamie's toilet's going to need some plumbing work now. It'll be okay. It'll be fine.
Hey, it'll be okay.
So, back onto the recomp thing. So, I think recomp, like I said, is just something that people use in order to stave off body fat. Which, hey, you can gain muscle and burn fat at the same time as long as your energy's at a deficit. I mean, You know, losing fat and gaining muscle, people don't know this, but it's actually a different pathway. It's a different process within your body, so it will just be much slower.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I will add for and it's appropriate since I'm keto dieting and nearly just shit my pants. That you don't need to be in an energy deficit in order to gain muscle while losing fat on a keto diet.
Right. That's how you see commonly. It's more common in beginners because, of course, they're less adapted to all this stuff. But you see it all the time in beginners where they start going to the gym, they're wanting to gain weight, but they actually shred up some. So, but you know,
Conversely, I found that with chicks, because they're so like obsessed with the scale,
yeah,
they'll gain muscle at a much faster rate than they're losing fat, and they'll freak out that they're getting fat. And it's like, oh my god, I don't know how many different ways I have to fucking tell you this, but no, you're not.
yeah, yeah. Well, they're also afraid of. There's still that culture around being afraid of gaining muscle for chicks too, because again, you know, it has something to do with maybe the scale going up, as you said, or maybe just the fact that their clothes are fitting a little bit tighter, which is always, you know, it's a psychological mind fuck for a chick who's not in the scene. So, but I think speaking of scene, we'll switch scenes here and we'll go on to the topic.
Okay.
Obesity. So you wanted to kind of have a call the fatties chat with everybody here, but let's clarify. So, what are we considering the obese? Are we considering the super obese the obese? Like in the same category as people who should rethink their position on being fat?
I didn't even realize that we were going to cover the definition of the word obese.
Let's have some clear rules here, because if we're going to have a discussion about the obese, obviously you have the obese, which is like somebody that comes over to Thanksgiving who has a beer gut, or somebody who's just, you know, a couple rolls past where they need to be. You know, they got a muffin top on top of a muffin top. And then you have the super obese that are the people that are, you know, 500, 400, something like that, pounds. And it doesn't look like they're going to slow down. Now, I will say for the super obese, it's a little bit different, because there's obviously, and I'm sure you can attest to this, because I don't know if you've met any, but there's something wrong, you know, either upstairs or with their physiology. I mean, no, you're fucking, you don't have a bad thyroid, because that's the first thing that the doctor checks if you're super obese. Like, they keep on top of that shit. But there's obviously a hiccup somewhere, you know. Whether
I over vacation I saw a woman by the pool. She was walking. She wasn't in a bikini. Thank fucking everything that exists.
Yeah.
She was walking towards me, and I was looking at her, and I kind of cocked my head like I was a dog confused by something his owner was doing, because it looked like she was wearing two-tone bell-bottom pants, and I was confused by that. I was like, I've never seen two-tone bell-bottom pants. And then I realized that what I thought was a beige bell-bottom was her fat around her ankle, which I have never seen before. And I screamed and then ran away.
See, even the famous
I've never seen anything like that.
The famous tricep basically engorging itself used to be a lot rarer than it is now today. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because, you know, when I was a kid, even as far back as then, you know, and I'm only 28.
You're so old.
I know. I'm only 28, but even when I was a kid, you didn't see a lot of people with that just engulfing tricep fat that I just find disgusting.
Nah, you saw them. They were like the white trash that you'd see at the state fair, but you didn't see them like at the mall, or they had the decency to stay home and die there. They didn't come out into the sun.
Well, now you see that everywhere is what I was trying to get at. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they really should have the decency to stay home.
There's even memes going around
die.
About if somebody at Thanksgiving isn't cooking the food and they look like this, and you just see that picture, that tricep, then I'm not going. It's like, okay, well, at your own.
I like that you call it a tricep when it's just a globule of fat hanging over their elbow.
Listen, I'm a bodybuilder. I think of parts of your body in muscle groups. It's the only thing I know how to do. So,
hey, whatever works for you.
Yeah, no, so the super obese, obviously there's something wrong there. So
there's something wrong with all these people. Why you wouldn't want to be fat, I have no idea. Like right now, my body fat's about as high as it's ever been, and I mean I still have 4 abs, but like love handles have gotten a little out of control. But I was just in jail. I was just eating as much as I possibly could and chugging milk all day long, trying to fucking gain muscle. So
I'm sure
I just said, "Fuck
didn't
me."
help any.
Um,
I find that when you eat foods that you specifically don't agree with, you tend to store more body fat. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. I don't know. I need to research that more. But
that's an interesting theory, and it's entirely possible because. But I was eating a tremendous amount of fat because I was getting a lot of my protein from peanuts, which I know I've written about.
No.
They're poisonous, but it's cheap protein source. So I actually sat down and calculated each food that I could buy and the cost per gram of protein, and then bought food accordingly.
Oh my
God!
I
was living off.
Now you can't say it anymore. You've actually counted a macro. I'm proud of you.
I always count macros. I just don't get panicky about it, and I don't talk about it. I just do it.
Oh my gosh! No,
that's not something that requires discussion. You just do it, and don't be a pussy about it.
You'd mentioned before you don't count macros, so I was proud of you there for a moment. But I guess.
I mean, I don't. I'm not in there counting like down to the. I just happen to know like. All right, a piece of meat the size of the palm of your hand is 4 ounces, or the size of a deck of cards is 4 ounces, and that's 25 grams of protein. So I know that I got to eat 2 of those in order to get a decent amount of protein, like at a meal.
Yeah. But anyway, so the super obese, what first and foremost?
we were way off track there.
First and foremost, what do you think causes this epidemic? What do you think causes obesity to begin with?
People not having any respect for themselves or for other people, and I think that's basically at the root of it. They have no self-respect. They have no consideration for others, and they're just being ridiculously selfish and like mentally weak, I guess.
You know, I have my own opinions about it. I mean, some people have their vices, right? Like mine is, of course, lifting. One of my things that I do when I'm stressed
that does not qualify. That doesn't qualify as a vice,
sir. It's my vice because I'm obsessed.
It's not a vice. That's absolutely not a vice at all.
Fine. The thing I do for enjoyment.
Yes, there you go.
The thing that sends dopamine just squirting throughout my brain, right? The thing that makes me feel good, modulating how my body looks, doing all these things. Sometimes, from the mind of an obese person, they find happiness almost 100% of the time when it comes to food. Either emotional attachments or more dangerous, and this is the more dangerous one, they almost chase it like a high from a drug. And I don't know if food's the only thing to blame, because I've actually racked my brain about this. You know, because, okay, food's more plentiful, and food's, thanks World War II, food's more plentiful than it ever has been. We don't really have a famine here in the U.S., and I'm talking U.S.-based because that's what I know. So, food is only one part of the equation. Lack of activity is the other. Now, I know this whole cop-out shit about jobs and whatever, because you don't have physical jobs and all that shit, but, like, you go inside and you have this barrage of endless content we call the internet, or TV even. You know, you have, I mean, how many fucking channels do you need on your satellite package? And I'm not saying nobody got obese back in the day. I'm just saying for some reason, for whatever reason, it seems to be more prevalent today. Do you think there's any other underlying causes behind that?
I really do think that it's, well, number one, and this is something that I've noticed in a lot of people lack hobbies. And and I know that sounds like a weird thing to blame obesity on, but when people don't have hobbies, they sit around and surf the internet or watch TV and eat. They're not out fucking building birdhouses or lifting weights or painting or anything like that. They're sitting on their fucking fat ass and eating.
Right.
So there's problem one. So bad parenting, I guess, would come into it.
Education's definitely an issue, yeah.
There's no education problem. That people know that what to eat and what not to eat. And I refuse to believe that people don't know what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. It's not possible. Man.
I'm talking about your parents, like you were saying.
Yeah, but your parents don't need to tell you not to be a fucking fatty. You just look around and you're like, oh, well, people instinctively dislike fat people. It is an inborn instinct to dislike fat people. Maybe I shouldn't maybe I shouldn't be fat. Like, people think that I'm weak. People think that I'm lazy. People think that I'm worthless, which are all true statements. So don't be that.
And there's an interesting evolutionary kind of reflex when it comes to that as well. Something I don't think you've ever discussed in your blogs before is and I'd like you to kind of go over, is historically, cultures of the past, whenever you had a weight problem, right, or you sounded sickly, let's just say somebody's 300 pound in ancient times, right, and they start to wheeze because their cardiovascular health isn't exactly all there, and they start to wheeze whenever they're walking, and they might be strong, but they're kind of frail in the way that they go about their normal life. You would have people in the cultures of yesteryear avoid those people because potentially they could catch the fucking plague or something, right? So if you came over from a village and you had like these boils and these pustule like sores all over you, they would literally treat you as, I mean, there's a reason this is a saying, but treat you like a leper, And it's the same thing with obesity. That's why we have such that gut reaction to it, I believe. Because it was seen as a bad thing because it does bad things. I mean, people who are bigger often die because of it, end up dying because of it. Whether it's today or, in 10 years. Well, hey, let's be honest here. 20 years because of modern medicine. We benefited greatly from antibiotics. But when it comes down to it, I think that's some of the gut reaction that we have towards the obese. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, they weren't healthy.
Yeah, they're not healthy, and I mean, you see it in the wild. Like, you got your slow, weak animals, and they get pushed out of the herd because those are you don't need to be the fastest gazelle on the plain. You need to be faster than that fucking guy or that guy. Yeah. So so long as there's this fat fuck trundling along next to you, like, they're gonna get eaten first. And personally, I have an instinctive dislike for weak people, so they gross me out because we're apex predators, and this person is chosen literally to make themselves into a sheep or a cow or a goat. And I mean, shit, goats will at least eat other animals if they have to. Like, a goat can defend itself, but these people they're making themselves into prey, and I don't understand that mentality. And it just comes back to they have no self-respect. Or, again, respect for other people. Like, they're willing to let their fat, slop over into the next person's fucking airline seat. Which is offensive to me in a variety of different ways. And I don't want to fucking hear that my shoulders are too big and you can't fit in your seat. Well, I guess you ought to be big enough to fucking push my shoulders out of the way then, bitch. But, don't be fat and slop into my seat.
Some of societies actually try to fix that problem. I mean, look at our height disparities. We have quite a bit of a disparity between us. So you have shirts that fit you quite well, and I have to go up a size larger. Well, not now because I'm more muscular, and I actually don't. I'm not wearing a fucking poncho for shirts now. But beforehand, there's a reason why people who are, taller either are extremely poor or have jobs that enable them to gain a lot of money, because as a taller individual, you might need to spend more because your weight is obviously bigger than somebody who's, under 6 foot. Your clothes need to be bought with special things in mind. Like, for example, I do not personally like shirts that are skin tight on me because they always end up being fucking tank tops if I raise my arms up because reasons.
You mean a half shirt?
A half shirt, yeah, like a belly shirt, yeah. So that's like a no-go on me. So I'm always loosey-goosey in my clothing. Also, I can't fit inside. Like, my mom just got this new Baller Buick, right? Yeah, my neck is bent when I'm sitting up in this thing. It's fucking hysterical. It's like I'm climbing a clown car. But because of that, you know, I buy chairs that are XL chairs that are for bigger people. So I'm not like a munchkin, you know. And it's the same thing for bigger people, but society has actually started, you know, and we talked a little bit about this, about the diabetes crisis and the insulin running out by 2030. You know, society kind of blunts the cost for that for bigger people, not taller people. So I feel personally offended by that. But they do. They make
you feel persecuted, do you?
I feel persecuted. I'm gonna start a petition on change.org that will never get read because those are fucking useless. So please fucking stop it. No, I won't sign your change.org petition. But
well, aren't you mean?
You know what? Fucking I am. Today's the day. I'm gonna be fucking mean. But speaking of mean, you know, society is kind of taking the blunt on the cost of that. So we have bariatric ambulances, right? Ambulances that are meant to, I think in the United States, it's 1,500 pounds. So that's 1,500. That's a ton and a half that our bariatric ambulances can carry in the back as cargo. And at that point, you are cargo if you're 1,500 pounds. And in the UK, it's 1,000 pounds, right? So there's more cost that's coming out of my, you know, taxes because you decided to make the choices that you decided to make. Not only that, but there's this, and I don't know if you agree with this, but wouldn't you agree that if you know there's a problem that's affecting your health, don't take care of it, that's a suicide.
Yeah, you've made the choice to die. I don't see any.
And
I mean, it's kind of along the lines of somebody who is suicidal and they go to a gun store and they buy a gun and shoot themselves. Like, you can be held liable for selling them that gun, which I think is ridiculous. If a person wants to fucking kill themselves, let them kill themselves. I mean, it's not like we're arresting people for selling fat people food, which, I mean, if we're trying to save the fat people, we should, but quite honestly...
No. We want the Chinese restaurants. Don't pick on them. Stop. Stop. I want my Chinese food, you motherfucker. Do not pick on the people who sell foods, because that's not the fucking answer either. You know, and that's kind of the risk, too. Like, if you're...
I have the answer.
Okay, let's take guns out of it. Let's take killing themselves out of it, okay?
Yes.
I want to hear your answer. So, killing yourselves and then locking them up and then putting them in internment camps. Let's take that out of it. Okay?
No.
Hey.
It would be a waste of money to intern these people. It's not like we can reform them and make them into human beings.
Being fucking serious, man. You need to be careful. Don't be disrespectful. Come on.
I will not be disrespectful. What I think is we need to make a delicious, delicious food. One that fat people cannot say no to.
Okay.
Like Oreos. And then lace it with a fatal dose of arsenic in a single cookie. Give it to them. Let them all die, and we can move on. Or we can wait. We can wait until 2030, and then the problem will solve itself. And can I tell you why?
Why is that?
Because in 2030, the pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities and the distribution networks for insulin will not be able to match demand because there will be too many fucking fat people on the planet. And so they'll all go into diabetic comas and die. Well, not all of them, half of them. And then we can just jail the other ones for using up all the insulin and let them die in jail.
Well, that sounds an awful lot like an internment camp. I just.
Well, I mean, if I had a faster way to kill them, I certainly would. I mean, if you want to just assign maybe 100 people to me, and we can wear leather trench coats and jack boots and go around and just beat these people to death or kill them with machetes, I'm down with that.
Hey,
I'm
man.
good.
Hey, that sounded a lot like the Antifa movement. Hold on.
Oh, that's true.
Hold on.
Well, no, because then we would be 130 pounds. Or no. Well, yeah. I was thinking of the Proud Boys. That would mean we were 130 pounds and wearing polo shirts with pop collars. Yeah, the Antifa movement, also idiots. But at least they can fight, I guess. Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's your cure. I don't exactly know what the cure is because, like I've said before, we're making wider doors. We're having those be mandatory in businesses. So we're now telling a private business owner what kind of doors to put in because somebody.
Well, do you actually think that there's any point in trying to reform these people, or can they be reformed?
You know what? I'm not a fan of killing anybody.
Well, I'm not saying we need to kill them necessarily, because really I don't give a shit that much about them, and that'd be an exhausting thing to do. So, but my point is, there's no point in reforming them. Like, if they're that far gone, they're not ever going to be a useful human being.
I'm reformed.
So ignore them. Shun them. You reformed yourself. You didn't require outside influence.
Actually,
so just shun them.
Help.
There you go. As I said, shun them.
Well, it's just such a widespread issue. I really don't know what to see because I've actually put some thought into this. I don't know if a government-funded boot camp would be the right way to go. I mean, I don't know because people are always going to say, well, you can't tell me to do this and you can't tell me to do this. If you've ever been a personal trainer in charge of somebody who's bigger, it usually ends up with them throwing a fit because they don't want to do this particular exercise or they feel that this...
Because they're weak. They're weak, useless people.
Well, I don't know about that. I do know that the cardiovascular system is weak.
I know that they are physically, mentally, and spiritually weak people, and that's that.
Well, I do know that I like a good redemption story. So let's talk about that a little bit. How would you go about, if there was a way to reform, how would you go about that?
It would need to be as much psychological as it would need to be physical. So I would guess you'd have to put them through some sort of... Well, you're too young to remember this. Stuart Smalley, do you remember that on SNL?
No.
It was an Al Franken sketch, which I know is a bad way to begin anything. It really wasn't all that good. But it was about this, like, very effeminate pussy that everybody hated. And he used to just say to himself all the time, like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, or something like that. But you need to improve these people's self-respect and pride so that they took pride in their personal appearance. And then, as they said at Globo Gym, you got to hate yourself enough to want to fix yourself. So, but I mean, they don't even respect themselves enough to hate themselves. So you need to build up their self-respect until they actually think they're worth saving. And then they'll save themselves.
For once you surprised me. That actually wasn't the answer that I expected. You actually made a good point there.
Well, thank
you. I do have to agree with that because it is another thing that I think this all has to do with is it's so easy just to not fucking do anything. It's it's a cop out, but it really is easy not to do anything about your health, especially when there's no immediate risk. I mean, these people. I mean, how many years do they take to die now?
Oh, a long time. Although, actually, that was something I learned over my break, quote unquote, was that the average life expectancy for your generation and the generation after you is considerably lower than my generation. So I'll outlive you guys.
Yeah, but we have veganism, so I mean, I don't know what that says, but We have vegan people who wear skinny jeans who are probably not going to impregnate anybody. So population's probably going to get a little bit of a bump down. Life expectancy wise, yeah, we have vapes. So I mean, people have those exploding in their faces and disfiguring them forever. So yeah, I could see that.
Well, no, it's just because you're all fat and out of shape. Well, not you, obviously, but your generation is all fat and out of shape and generally useless.
You know, something interesting that I've found out is I'm not so worried about the generation below me because, Instagram, for all of its faults, and it's always wanting to be strong and all that fucking bullshit that comes with that culture. I mean, I saw some guy on there this morning who was ultra proud of him benching about he had 4 plates on each side, but they were 10-pound bumper plates. And he did not angle his video correctly in order to miss that. So I saw that right off the bat, and I'm like, well, doesn't fucking matter. There's a reason why that bar wasn't bending. You pretending. But it's
in happier news. I saw a picture of John Jones pulling 635 off a low box. Well, the UFC fighter.
Yeah, I know who John Jones is. Yeah.
And I was impressed by that because UFC fighters are generally, at least I'm in my experience, even the ones they say who are strong or not. And so I'm impressed. Like, the guy made, especially like from February to May, he went from like a 500-pound deadlift, low box deadlift, to a 635.
I think all that has to do with the lower weight classes being more interesting for people because the fights are longer. John Jones is a heavyweight, but the welterweights and the featherweights and the basically 140 all the way up to just below 190. I think I don't know what their weight class. I think 185. Yeah. Those are the best classes and the most popular classes, and that's why
John Jones isn't a heavyweight. He fights at 205.
I thought he was a heavyweight.
No, he fights at 205. You're thinking of that guy that broke his leg. His name escapes me, but yeah. Okay. But yeah, there's another fighter who looks a lot like John Jones and fights like him, and his name is not coming to me at the moment.
Okay. Well, the thing about UFC is they still have that old homage that boxers used to have, like don't lift weights because it's going to make you slower. You remember, because that used to be a thing.
Yeah, and they still focus real heavily on quote-unquote functional strength, which is fucking retarded.
And then you have Floyd Mayweather lifting some weight. But anyway, but it's just one of those things where you don't see many guys be very strong because they're not specifically training for it, because they think that it's some detriment to their sport. Now, I can understand having a very heavy overloading deadlift session impacting your cardiovascular fitness because you can't fucking stand up. I can understand that. I can also understand people with, broken bones when it comes to tibia or meniscus issues and stuff like that, not being able to back squat because their knee fucking hurts. And that's very common in the UFC. Having broken bones and all that crap, of course, comes with the territory. But yeah, that makes me very happy that we have at least somebody representing weightlifting in the UFC. So
yeah. I mean, it used to be back in the old Pride FC days when you had guys like Mark Coleman and really the entire Hammer House crew. Those guys were Mark Kerr. They were fucking huge. And they would just get out there all fucking juiced up and wheezing and just like smash people.
Yeah. But there is something with the heavier weight classes. I can tell you right now that those guys have a lot shorter careers, just because they get knocked in the face with another guy who's over 225, and that's a lot of force to be delivered into your fucking jaw.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, it's complicated. I understand it, but
I think Nagano, he lifts. He actually just trashed that other big dude that he fought the other day.
You know, and for as basic bitch as it is to mention George St. Pierre, GSP, he lifts too. He lifts too, so that's, you know, he does a lot of kettlebell stuff though, but I guess that's more for the functional aspect that they're all.
Which is, while we're just going from a side to a side.
Yeah, I know.
Functional strength. Let's just lay this to rest. Functional strength is strength. You're either strong or you're not. If you are strong, you can use that strength in a variety of different ways. If you're not strong, you can't. I have been so strong my entire adult life that, like picking up a person who weighs over 300 pounds and throwing them is not hard. Picking up anything that weighs 300 pounds and throwing it is not hard.
Also, he's been volunteered to pick up every single fucking couch for people that move. Ever. So
yeah, no shit. Oh, and in jail, I became the backcracking guy because I could lift anybody up. So I was just like, even COs would come up to me and be like, yo, can you crack my back? And I'd be like, oh, all right, sure. But, everybody was marveling at me, and I was like, what are you guys carrying on about? And why does everybody keep coming to me asking me to crack their back? And they were like, well, you're the only person who could pick anybody up. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? And then I came to find out that these guys that I was just yanking off the ground weighed like, one of them weighed 320 pounds, and I picked him up like he was a sack of fucking potatoes. Being strong is being strong, and I've never trained for functional strength in my life. I mean, I've done tire flips, but I didn't enjoy them.
You know, I'd be interested to see, because this is something that I had theorized for a long time, because we know that lifting heavy, or lifting what's heavy for somebody, usually tends to increase bone density, right? Which could technically increase your potential for maximum muscle mass. Right, because that's highly to do with how much bone you have for a muscle to kind of piggyback off of. So I would be interested to see some like a twin study that had one twin lift and one twin didn't, and then measuring the bone density between the two, eating similar diets, because that's something I'd always wondered. You know, there is something to be said about people who started lifting young, continued lifting throughout their adult life. They tend to be much better old people. You know, not falling prey to slips or being able to catch themselves, or just generally being more active than people that are, you know, bedward bound by the time they're 70 versus grandpa who's still running around the block with his grandson, you know? I mean, it is kind of interesting to think about. I'd always hypothesized that, like, you know, it makes you basically stronger all around, not just muscles, which is what we see, but internally.
I'm actually writing, not about twins, but I'm writing an article, currently it's just going to be a quick one, about a bodybuilder from the golden age of bodybuilding who, when he was 85, was still doing like presses and curls with 50-pound dumbbells.
Yeah.
He's an 85-year-old who was doing curls with 50-pound dumbbells. And while that wasn't nearly what he was doing when he was younger, he was 85 and a solid 185 at about, well, he was 5'8" when he was, like, young. So he's probably 5'6" at 85, okay. And he was 185 solid. Like,
and no
you've
issues,
never seen
right?
None at all.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what age he died at. I haven't actually looked that up yet. But, like, that's what heavy lifting does. Like, that guy was a heavy lifter his entire life. He was a bodybuilder, but he was always into lifting heavy. And he had some crazy-ass lifts. And I don't want to give his name and spoil it for, like, everybody start looking him up. But,
I'll link it if it's finished by the time this video's up.
Okay, cool. It will be. And so I think that's one thing that people discount is that while, yeah, you do have guys like Poliquin who dropped dead of heart attacks at, 50? You got guys like...
to begin with. He was on a pacemaker, man.
You got some of these bodybuilders from the golden age who, may or may not have juiced when they got older, but they were still moving a shitload of weight their entire lives, and they lived long, full lives.
Yeah, and that's the fucked up thing too, is steroids are always to blame because that's the easy scapegoat, right? But you have people like Jack LaLanne, and he's a very specific Jack LaLanne. He's a very specific thing that I can. I'm sorry. Let's see here. I'm trying to see what age he died at. Let's see here. Age 96. So he lived to 96. And if you think Jack LaLanne didn't have access to the highest quality gear ever, you're sadly mistaken. In fact, he was on TRT when he died. You know, and his arms were still very big, and he still did pull-ups and all this other crap, right? But I don't think his steroid usage or even recreational drug usage, because you've got to understand, at 96, it was different times, guys. It frustrates me when people don't realize that, you know, in the 80s, you know, cocaine was big. In the 70s, this was big and everything, and there's probably a high likelihood that Jack LaLanne at some point used something, right? I mean, if you
yeah, well, absolutely.
You know, something.
Yeah, and I think it sucks that like steroids have really gotten such a bad rap at this point, because I mean they've only been criminalized in the United States for the last 30 years?
Yeah.
Not even?
You could buy Anadrol not long ago. You could buy Anadrol over the counter. A-bombs. I mean, I was talking to a guy up at my gym. I won't mention his name, but he's this older guy, and he was a powerlifter who you know, deadlifted over 6, squatted over 5, and pulled somewhere in the 580 something range, right? Like an old school powerlifter, no equipment, none of that bullshit. He actually quit because the shorter guys were coming in there who weighed like nothing, and they were breaking his records and stuff. So he's like, fuck this, right? But he was like an old school gritty ass powerlifter, and he still talks to me about, you know, what he's doing, and he's like, you know, I got to get this weight down, you know, and everything, because he used to be a big boy and stuff. But he tore tricep. He's actually still training with a fucking broken wrist. He has a wrist that he doesn't want to go into surgery for because he can't be bothered. So he's just going in there and benching and all these things with a broken wrist. That's just toughness that you don't get anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And that dude, he was talking to me about how he used the Anadrols that he used to get over the counter. You know, he's an older gentleman. That he used to get over the counter, and that was when he was the strongest and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was just a different time, and steroids get such a bad rap. But what you don't realize is these people who are over 50 who have died because of whatever reason had access to a lot more things than we do today, more readily available anyway. And it really is interesting that steroids always get the blame, and it's almost like they always discredit people's hard work, and that always frustrates me. It frustrates me because they're, you know, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the biggest names in bodybuilding, took them, and nobody discredits his work, but somebody like Charles Poliquin dies, and I go look at the comments, and they're like, steroids. Well, you know what? Sometimes shit just happens, and it's a bullshit cop-out to sit there and yell steroids over somebody who's done so much good or had done so much in the fitness industry in their life that you just want to pick apart and say steroids to discredit his work. It's like, I mean, for fuck's sake, can't you just fucking deal with a man being dead? You know, and I understand there's people like Greg Kovacs and, you know, people who pushed it to the extreme. But, you know, these people, most people who die young or something like that from a heart attack aren't those ones. You know, they aren't those ones that push it to the limit. Otherwise, you'd know it. Just like Dallas McCarver gaining 80 fucking pounds in a year. Like, okay, obviously, there's your fucking cause of death. You know, some hardcore, and he had you know, enlarged lungs and enlarged heart and enlarged organs, and he was pumped full of IGF-1 and all that stuff. Just fucking let the man Charles Poliquin rest. It just frustrates me. I'm sorry I got off on a fucking rant.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, if a person has the right to be a fucking fat ass, or the right to be a weak little fucking shit-talking bitch on the internet who claims to lift weights and doesn't, or films themselves like in elite fitness gear and fucking is squatting 150 pounds, like, if you have the right to be that bitch, then this guy has the right to take as much gear as he fucking wants and have his heart explode. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, just be whoever you are and stop being at least that guy owned what he was and didn't give a fuck about it, rather than just being some shit-talking fucking pussy on the internet. I swear to fuck, if they posted the addresses of people on the internet, there'd be a lot less people with jaws in one piece.
South Park did that. South Park did
they did it in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They were just going around. They used all the money they got out of the movie that they were trying to stop to just go around the U.S. or around the world and fuck people up for talking shit about them on the internet, which is the greatest idea ever.
But that brings us back to the topic at hand. So obesity. I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives, right? Because I know I've not made the right choices in some facets of my life. I have a whole career that's behind me because of that. But when it comes down to it, you have the right to be that way, but, think of it from a broader perspective than just the micro level, right? Don't think day to day. Think of how you're going to feel in 10 years. If you are somebody who's obese, I know this has been kind of outlandish and this has kind of been edgy, but for fuck's sake, that's the people who listen to us, the people that aren't afraid of us saying the word fuck and aren't afraid of us, throat fucking on our blog. Anyway, that's the kind of people that listen to us, and they're not afraid of hearing this stuff, and you shouldn't be either. You're so easily fucking offended by and that's another thing that I have a problem with is the obese people who are obese are so easily offended by things, especially when it comes up to the topic of weight. And it's like you're so barraged by your doctor and these posters that they have around your children's schools about the obesity epidemic, and there's news reports and there's all this stuff. There's something telling you that there's something wrong there. It's like if we had this same level of pushing, that heroin is bad. If we had that same level, like the doctor said, well, you shouldn't really use heroin because of this, and this, and this. You're completely fine to listen to your doctor on that. But when it comes to your weight, it's like, oh, he's just telling me to lose weight. Well, I got to find a different doctor because it's not the opinion that I want. It's like, God damn it. But I guess that's my rant for the day.
I don't even know what the point of this podcast is at this point.
It's a casual Sunday/obesity rant.
This really was a casual Sunday because we were just babbling.
I know, but sometimes we need it, man. I've had a hard for me, quote unquote, because I know the shit that I go through isn't shit. Okay, but man, I'm so wrecked from my leg day that I had on Saturday. Man, I couldn't walk yesterday. Like, I just couldn't do it. And it was all from changing something little. Like, you ever changed, like, your stance on squats or your stance on your arm placement or something, and it making a just gigantic difference that you really didn't think was possible?
Yeah, I think so.
I did the same thing. Like, so my squat stance, as of recently, has just gotten closer and closer and closer together. I don't know why this is, but it seems like my legs are just drifting closer and closer and closer. And by widening out my stance, I completely wrecked myself. And man, this stuff just reignites me and my passion for lifting. It's just something stupid.
That's what it's all about. And when people talk about how, if you've been training that long, how come you're not stronger than you are? It's because when you actually enjoy what you're doing, and I was discussing this with somebody the other day about power building, somebody asked me to define my training style, and that's what I said it was. It's power building. I combine bodybuilding with lifting heavy, and that's what you got. And it works well for fucking everything. And when you do that, your goals are never the same, and you're not always just trying to add weight to the bar because you want an extra 5 pounds on your bench, because who gives a fuck anyway?
Yeah.
So, it's shit goes up, shit goes down. Sometimes you change your stance. Sometimes you change everything. Like, it's annoying as shit that people call them Yates rows now, because they're just fucking curl grip bent over rows. But I mean, I used to do those, and then I switched to overhand bent over rows, and then I switched to doing them off the floor, and you know, your weights change on those all the time because you're doing an entirely different movement, and yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Well,
so
go ahead.
You're never gonna add weight to the bar all the time, and you're never gonna be as lean as you're never gonna be able to maintain the same body fat. You're never. It's all about the journey. So. It's not about what's that?
Say it ain't so. Instagram's been lying to me. It's not like they had one photo shoot that they keep fucking posting pictures from for 365 days so that they can make sure that they're consistent with their Instagram post, that they're using from the same fucking location. I mean, if you look in the background, it's the same fucking photo shoot. They just change clothes. I mean, what?
I've never noticed that, but I don't even go on Instagram anymore. I mean, I still have an Instagram, but I don't use it because I just that shit just drives me up the wall. But yeah, I just that's one thing that aggravates me. There is no. It's the journey. It's not the fucking destination, and that's why all this fucking quibbling shit about minutia annoys me to no end.
Yeah. And I think on that end, I think we're gonna end this one. You know, guys,
sounds good.
If you're bigger and you enjoy your life the way it is, that's fine, and do that. But you know, we would encourage you to pull back a little bit and see what a leaner life is like. You might. I
don't encourage that at all. I don't give a fuck. Just keep your fat out of my seat.
See, I'm encouraging people. I want to lift people up. I want to lift things. That's what I do.
Well, I can lift them up to crack their back if they need it.
Hell yeah. Especially if you're...
If only I didn't have to get their fat on me.
Long story short, man, just, you can use our products. You can use Apex Predator Diet. If you have anybody, in your life is bigger, have them take a look at the Feast or Famine diet or the Apex Predator diet so that they can try and get a little bit leaner and try and get a little bit happier and healthier. It's one thing that I noticed. I'm very thankful to be able to bend down and touch my toes now. What?
By the way, you got to finish up that Feast or Famine diet so people can actually get the details.
I know. But in the meantime, if you like this video, go ahead and like it. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, that helps us out. It really, really does. Do it now. If you dislike this video, you know what to do. You can shove that somewhere. If you have any comments that you would like us to read, go ahead and comment in the comment section below. By the way, comments are all, for some reason they were on approved before. Now they're on allow all. So you can go ahead and call me a fucking idiot. You can call Jamie an idiot, especially those people who are like, body positivity. If they go ahead and, because I'm going to have that one tags. I encourage
you people to get on this.
Yeah. So if you can do that, you can just, yell at us and cause some controversy so that we can have more people go to the video and view our content because you decided to comment something, It all works together.
On a positive note, and I will plug a product that I have no relation to whatsoever other than the fact that I love it. I found it while I was on vacation. It's called Barron's Hot Sauce, Barons.
Okay.
And it's got on the label, it's got a dude from V for Vendetta on the cover, and it's fucking delicious. Juice instead of vinegar. It is delicious, and it'll have your asshole burning.
The people only heard asshole burning because your internet cut out, but I think we'll end it on that.
Oh,
so
all right.
See you in the next one.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no loving, that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about, telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that, telling me things about rap, talking the truth and that stab in my back, they will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking. Remember my moves in the past, I'm wondering what was I thinking. Lately I'm living in fear, wondering what if the end is so near. All of this shit going on, the shootings are strong, one shot to the head and I'm gone. I'm losing control but I can't let it go, cause I'm trying to get more. And I've been in the moment, I've been in the zone, and I'm moving alone. I don't pick up the phone when my family call, I've been doing it wrong and I don't know what's happening. Trying to get what I just been imagining, getting close and I just been examining all of the fake shit the game has been packaging.
Power pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box, nobody telling me what I should rock, nobody telling me what I should drop, cause I do what I want and just know I don't stop. Recording till 4 in the morning, they snoring, I'm pouring my soul into every story. I'm writing, producing, I mix it, I master, I'm building my craft and I'm not looking back. I've been going doing things I wanna do when I want to. Everybody wanna get a win but they not do. Everybody wanna copy you but they not you. Everybody wanna be cool but they not new. Whoa, look how I go, gonna be a dentist, I still got the flow. Never gonna lose cause I'm still doing both. Never gonna lose cause I've been on the road. Come to your state and I'm killing the show. Know that I'm young and I still gotta grow. Know that I'm working the most, know I'm never gonna choke. And I'm looking back down on the people below.
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel. I've been out here trying to kill every beat, I know I will. Everything I'm working on